Welcome back to the Abundance Alchemist, your quiet space to remember who you are. Tonight's message is simple, but it might change everything you believe about wanting more. What if being seen with abundance was as gentle as breathing? What if letting yourself be visible, with all the goodness you hold, was naturally safe? What if the story of hiding, of shrinking, of folding yourself smaller around money could dissolve just by being softly witnessed? What happens here isn't a lesson, it's a recoding, a slow unwinding for your hidden patterns. Every word is chosen, like a hand smoothing over anxious fabric, helping your nervous system remember something ancient and calm. Every breath is a doorway. Every sentence is a signal to your body's deep places. Here it is safe. Here nothing is asked of you but rest and remembering. Tonight, the script itself is designed to help the guards inside you loosen, while your soul quietly recalls its original comfort with wealth, being seen, being whole. If you recall nights spent second-guessing your own worth, if you've ever pressed your dreams down just to blend in, or questioned whether you could trust the desire to be held, by money, by praise, by the gaze of the world, by your own soft power, rest a little closer. This entire episode is for you, for every heart that has undercharged, overcompensated, or apologized for wanting more. For the parts that flinch at the thought of prosperity's spotlight, or that quiet voice within that wonders if being noticed will ever feel nurturing instead of nerve-wracking. We're here not to teach, but to let something soft and golden in you be received, maybe for the first time in a long while. If you've hidden, if you've shrunk, if you've felt both the ache of invisibility and the anxiety of attention, know that this night is tailored for just such a heart. Here you are neither behind nor ahead. There's nowhere to catch up, nothing to prove. Just the steady presence of a voice, a rhythm pulling you out of hiding, one breath at a time, so stay with me. Even if you drift off partway, even if your thoughts begin to tumble, let yourself float. The truth here is slow, spacious. It seeps in through the sound, through the gentle quiet between phrases, through the silent welcome you can feel, perhaps more than you hear. If you slip into sleep, the softness will find you anyway. If you wander, you are still held by the current of this remembrance. Let surrender lane you back, knowing the journey continues whether or not you're awake to witness each word. You don't have to listen closely. Let it all wash over you, like warm light filtering through closed eyelids, dusk upon skin, soft waves ebbing around your softened body. Just let yourself be surrounded. There's nothing to carry, nothing to hold up on your own. This is a space carved only for comfort, slowly inviting every part of you to come home and listen, even as you let go. There is a quiet threshold between dark and dawn, a hush where old stories live, breathing against the edges of your heart. In this gentle quiet, something begins to shift, almost imperceptibly. Perhaps it's just the faintest ember, glowing behind your ribs, a warmth that wasn't there before, as if the soul remembers how to sing before the voice finds the melody. Most of us learned early. If you wish for safety, it's better to shrink. To become the empty part of the room, the whispered presence in the hall. Everywhere a glow could have lived, you taught yourself to be dim, softer, smaller, quieter, invisible. Breath by breath, the body took the lesson in. Muscles learned to contract when ideas shimmered. The jaw tightens, spine curves forward, energy swirls down, inward, away from the light. Money, much like attention, has a way of seeking out the places where you hide. It stirs up the dust in forgotten corners, brushing over the places you folded yourself up, the old closets where enoughness grew roots. The nervous system remembers every moment it was safer not to be seen. Every flinch from a compliment, every time desire made the room quieter, not brighter. Even now, as you rest here, you might notice the body's tiny shields rising up, a flutter in the chest, a sudden urge to fold smaller. Let that be okay. No need to chase them away. Just breathe. Imagine a thin thread of golden light slipping under the door. Notice how it doesn't demand. It simply arrives, patient, curious, slow. The light doesn't rush or question your shadows. It traces the outline of what's been kept hidden. Soft as moonrise, it touches every memory of shrinking, every place you tried not to need, not to hope, not to ask. Most people try to prove they are enough by accumulating raisins or shrinking their dreams to fit old instructions. Sometimes it sounds like working twice as hard. Sometimes it looks like busy hands, avoiding the stillness. Sometimes it feels like apologizing for wanting, for taking up space, for letting desire be known. The world teaches, blend in, don't outshine, need less, stay safe, but here, in the slow arrival of light, all those old instructions soften. What if enoughness was not earned, but remembered? What if your truest glow isn't a threat to safety, but its foundation? Each inhale draws in something new, a gentle sense that enoughness is not scarce. That being seen is not dangerous, not in this quiet room. With every exhale, there is space, room for the nervous system to loosen just a little. No rush to fill every shadow. Let the light move on its own, curiosity in every gentle sweep. Imagine, for a moment, the nervous system as a room with thick curtains, drawn closed for decades. Light seeps around the edges, at first just a sliver, then another. Each breath a gentle hand at the drapery, loosening the hems, letting in another ray. You do not need to fling the windows open. Just let the sunrise do what it does, slow, certain, inevitable. Breathe in, breathe out. Maybe visibility once felt like exposure, bright as a spotlight, hot as a question with no answer. Maybe the body remembers moments when being seen meant risk, being laughed at, envied, punished, ignored. The shoulders remember ducking down. The heart recalls holding its breath. All of these reflexes belong to an old season, when the world was sharper than it is tonight. Now, the act of noticing is enough. Noticing the shield is the first glow of healing. You don't have to peel it away tonight, only recognize where it sits, where it hums, old and protective. Let every flicker of discomfort cue another breath, just let it flow in. And soften. In money, as in love, enoughness is so often a matter of feeling witnessed. Wealth comes seeking the one willing to let themselves shine. Not the one who shouts, but the one who allows their radiance to quietly fill a room, like lamplight pooling over familiar walls. And yet, even those called to the light may first need to remember how to stay when the room brightens, how to root themselves when energy rises, when old voices urge stillness, caution, retreat. Notice how the light lingers. It presses no further than you wish. Every shadow holds its own wisdom, cradling the stories you once needed, but no longer must tell. If you close your eyes, can you sense a soft glow pooling in your chest? It has always been there, waiting for gentle attention. Every time you doubted if you were enough, it pulsed beneath the question. Every time you softened your wants to let others shine, it listened. Each act of self-forgetting became fertile ground, a place where new safety can root, where new light can grow. Breath moves, light spreads. Enoughness is a tide, not a finish line. In this moment, there is nothing to fix and nothing to hide from. Let the room inside you grow brighter by degrees. not by force, but by the permission to receive. Let the golden light meet every shadow with welcome. This is how enoughness reveals itself. By allowing light in, softly, unhurried, by letting the nervous system unfurl one breath at a time, by remembering how safe it can be to glow, even just for tonight. Let your next breath be an invitation for this remembering. Let your next exhale soften the old walls just a little more. Welcome back to the Abundance Alchemist, your quiet space to remember who you are. Tonight's message is simple, but it might change everything you believe about being visible, about stepping into the light that's always waited for you. What if the places you shrink are really doorways to more life? What if being seen isn't a risk, but the portal to the abundance you kept hoping for? What if letting yourself shine was the first act of trust you ever needed? This isn't a lesson, it's a recoding. Here, every sentence is designed to let your nervous system breathe easier, while some deeper, ancient part of you starts to recognize the warmth of your own original light. If you've ever wondered why longing for more feels both electric and terrifying, if you've noticed how sometimes you almost get what you want, then a shadow inside says, "Not safe." Step back if you know the ache of undervaluing yourself or quietly apologizing for your next leap. If under everything bright, you sometimes catch a memory of yourself tucking away your joy or turning down the dial on your gifts so no one will stare too closely. If even in rooms of love, you secretly hide the vastness of your vision, softer than required, smaller than true, this episode is woven for you. It's shaped in the rhythm of all those moments you stayed quiet, or waited to be chosen, or believed safety meant silence. What happens here is not teaching, it's remembering. Each breath, each phrase is a gentle return to the knowing that you already are. Everything that ever tried to diminish you, every whisper of too much or warning of be careful, here. It finds permission to dissolve back into the soft gold you carried all your life. In the next hour, your mind will listen for you, drifting or awake. Each word is designed to slip past the mind's old gates and reach the dreaming part beneath. You don't have to wrestle with the old beliefs or explain yourself to anyone, not in this space, just notice. With the quietness of late night, how many times you folded yourself, how mastery and magic grew in you, even as you made yourself less visible. Here, there's no fixing, no fixing. It's only unfolding, only a gentle invitation to meet yourself as you truly are. Not dimmed, not delayed, not hidden, not apologizing for your sovereignty. So if you've ever undercharged, overpromised, or pretended things were easier than they were, if you've learned to stay small so others could feel comfortable around your greatness, if you carry the secret suspicion that full visibility is the most dangerous place of all, that thriving might cost you your belongings, stay with me. This is for you. Even if your body sinks into softness before the words finish weaving, even if your mind wanders, the message will find its way. It will settle in the gentle corridors behind your heart, right where your original light is waiting. Permission for everything old to leave. Permission for every truth you folded into the dark to lift and shine and live again. You don't have to listen closely. Just let it surround you. There is a familiar hush that finds its way into every room where a heart learns to dim. Soft as candle smoke, certain as dusk, many learned to quiet their light long before they knew the word for shy. Sometimes it was a stern look when joy grew too loud, or the chill of sudden silence after speaking a hope out loud. There are moments you can still feel, if you listen, shivers at the edge of celebration, the echo of someone's discomfort because you shined too bright. Your radiance, they warned, was too much. Too dazzling, too strong, too much for anyone to bear. So you softened, you shrank, you learned to wear shadows on purpose. Breathe here. What most gentle souls do is wrap their golden edges in layers of silence. They believe safety lies in keeping the best of themselves hidden, their biggest dreams, their wildest knowing, their endless compassion, and even their pleasure. So the world catches only glimmers. They serve, quietly, never wanting to make waves. They do not celebrate, lest someone say it is bragging. They tuck away wealth, passion, vision. Learned safety, be invisible, remain unseen, and yet under every pattern of hiding is an origin story not of weakness, but of unprotected strength. Not of wrongdoing, but of brilliance left unshielded. Of spirits who arrived already luminous, but who had yet to remember how to love the whole of their own glow. Breathe that in. The memory is cellular, the first memory of stepping forward, only to be met with rejection, abandonment, cold. Every time you learned to shrink, it was not proof that you were unworthy, but that your energy was precious. Each wince, each careful edit, cast not by lack but by wild beauty that simply needed tending. In the garden of the soul, nothing is born in hiding. Even seeds push to see the sun. It is instinct to reach. To want, to yearn for the gaze that holds you kindly, to crave riches as gentle as water cupping the roots. Somewhere along the way the message tangled. The more you have, the less they love you, the bolder you speak, the more you risk. So you began to calculate every word, to rehearse apologies before desire even left your lips. In matters of money, this becomes a quiet ritual of suppression, whispering your rates, hesitating to name your worth, staying silent as others take up space. Money comes in brief streams, never the ocean you once dreamed. And in love, you offer only the petals, never the thorns, holding back the fullness of who you are lest too much beauty offend. Rest here. What if every scar you keep is not a flaw, but a record of how much you dared to shine? Not evidence of being too much, but sacred proof you never, ever stopped being bright. What if your very radiance was so remarkable that the world needed time to adapt to its intensity? Imagine your power the way a newborn sun needs the sky to stretch itself wider. There is nothing wrong with your shine. Breathe again. Let that gather quietly around you. The world's discomfort was simply their unready mirrors, unable yet to hold what was always yours. If you were told to quiet, to hide, to retreat, you were never too big, too loud. You simply lacked a mother's arms to protect your light. There was no gentle gate, no sacred boundary for the vastness you carried. Isn't it tender that for so many, protection was mistaken for shrinking? And collective myths whispered, don't startle the tribe, don't disrupt the order. Yet, every sacred story of abundance begins with someone who allowed themselves to be seen, fully, perhaps trembling, always luminous. Even now, your nervous system wants assurance. Is it safe here? Is there room for my joy, my plenty, my voice? Will I be sheltered if I don't shrink? Let's breathe again, slower this time. Many have learned to build safety by staying invisible. To avoid the sting of envy, to dodge the spear of judgment, to withdraw the hands that clutch too tightly at their own beauty. But what if true defense was not invisibility, but devotion to self-love that envelops every wild edge? Imagine a garden walled not in stone, but in blooming tenderness, a space where your laughter echoes, your riches multiply, your ideas root and climb. Each time you stifled a celebration, each time you counted coins quietly, each time you hid a gift, you were not being small, you were searching for permission to be whole. It is an old agreement born of protection, not unworthiness. Feel it soften, pause. Listen to your breath, the way it expands and contracts without permission, without apology. There is wisdom here. What if wealth was as rhythmic as breath? What if being witnessed in your fullness was as natural as the inhale that feeds a body, the exhale that releases? What if money, love, time, in their purest form, were all invitations to be seen gently, abundantly, just as you are? Let that ripple through, rest, receive. Some still fear the burn of being the brightest one, the cost of envy, of being singled out. They become masters of invisibility, learning to fold themselves smaller, quieter, safer. But in truth, the call was never to shrink, only to protect. To envelop your gold in patience, in nurturance, in the mother's cloak that blesses, not binds. Let every breath now remind you, your light is not sharp, it is sacred. Your dreams are not threats, but invitations for others to remember theirs. You were born to shine gently, not apologetically. The fears that shaped you only proved how bright you always were, each wound a testament not to danger, but to the magnitude of the gift you carried unsheltered. So let your next breath arrive with new permission. If the world was not ready, there is no shame in that. You need not apologize for how much love you hold, or how hungry you are for more, of joy, of wealth, of belonging. Allow your curiosity to return, the way a child's laughter invites the sun, the way a river carves new land in its devotion to flow. Release the logic of shame, and sit in the soft certainty that your radiance is your birthright. The proof of your resilience is the way you still want, still rise, still open. Money comes where it is invited, where it is trusted, where it is witnessed. Let yourself be seen, supported, adored, not in spite of your fullness, but because of it. Tonight, as sleep draws you in, feel the gentle hands of spirit gathering every lost piece of you, sowing protection to every memory, whispering you were never too much. Only too unguarded in a world still learning how to love the light. Breathe, rest, you are precious, you are needed, exactly as you are. Somewhere there might still be a quiet ache that wonders if it's safe to be fully seen. Perhaps there is a gentle shyness tucked beneath the surface, childlike, holy, barely spoken, remembering the first time the light rested on you and did not turn away. Let that memory settle in softly now, as if sunlight were brushing over closed eyelids, asking nothing. Before trust was questioned, before being noticed carried a cost, before every glance felt like a risk, and shining too bright meant drawing the wrong eyes, there was the original moment, breathless, sacred, where simply existing was enough to be cherished. So many of us learned not to want the gaze. We became quiet to stay comfortable, softened our footsteps, lowered our laughter, folded our bright edges in so gently, believing invisibility would keep us safe. We practiced shrinking. We built invisible fences, tender walls from our own longing. We became experts at hiding the very light we most wished would be received. Sometimes the world confirmed our caution. Maybe a quiet talent overlooked at the dinner table, or a dream shared too soon and met with silence. So we tucked away our abundance, our magic, our golden hopes, behind layers of soft invisibility. Sometimes money joined the shadows. Wanting it felt dangerous, receiving it felt exposed. Somehow, the more we longed for support, the more we learned to camouflage our longing. It became easier to pretend we needed less, to apologize for desiring more. And so countless creators, soft-hearted visionaries, quiet artists, gentle leaders, learned to dim on command. They could hide in plain sight, skilled at being necessary but never the center. The innocence of being seen placed in storage, locked away, until even applause could feel punishable, until praise carried as much weight as reproach. But what if those days belong to a past version, and not to the one breathing here tonight? What if there is a remembering, lingering underneath all defenses, that wants to be invited forward, not as a performance, but as the simple, holy experience of being recognized? What if somewhere, deep in the marrow, the child self never stopped hoping for a witness who saw everything and offered only warmth in return? Pause here. Let your next breath become a gentle exhale. Imagine the air itself is watching over you, not judging, not measuring, only witnessing. This is the breath of spiritual innocence coming home. Nothing is required. Nothing is asked of you now except to be present, just as you are. Safe. Allowed. Notice what stirs within when all expectations drop away, like a lake untouchable by wind, still and clear. Can a soul remember the taste of being wanted, being invited, being celebrated before conditions? Rest into this moment. If your mind tries to catalogue old errors or compose arguments, let their sound trail off quietly, like echoes through morning fog, softening with every inhale, dissolving with every release. The original yes, the first blessing of eyes meeting yours, remains untouched beneath all stories of caution, scarcity, or shame. Perhaps this is a kind of return, not a lesson in strength, but a lullaby for your nervous system, a recalibration for your heart. Here is the truth, whispering through the velvet dark. Before anyone taught punishment, the divine already recognized you as gentle, limitless, and good. There is a sanctuary in this innocence. It is not lost, only waiting inside the way you breathe. Breathe again. Let the old patterns loosen. The ones that said boldness must be earned. The ones that told soft souls to become silent. With every breath out, the rules unspool, like yarn released from anxious hands, like dew evanescing from grass at dawn, like wildflowers uncurling in gold-lit meadows, unafraid to be seen. The body knows how to welcome its own light, if only allowed. Let the nervousness of recognition dissolve slowly. Imagine what it's like to have someone see you without demand, hear you with reverence, remember you with kindness, and not ask for proof. Imagine the relief in being received just as you are, again and again, without the shadow of penalty. The way ocean waves witness each grain of sand, the way stars keep company with the smallest spark, the way the divine cannot help but see every trembling hope and declare it good. There may be traces of fear, tender ghosts of memory, threads that whisper, hide just a little more. That is allowed, too. Let them settle beside you as you rest. Softness does not require explanation. Every nervous flinch, every instinct to shrink, is just another lost angel, waiting to be welcomed back home. What if abundance is not something to earn, but the natural atmosphere around you, pearlescent, certain, steady? What if being recognized is not a danger, but a form of prayer, a way to let your true form breathe in the sacred air? Now memory begins to mend. It softens at the edges. The ancient decision to disappear loses its grip, strand by strand, as gentleness becomes your new gravity, as recognition feels like blessing, not burden, as the holy inner child is coaxed from hiding. Stay in this wonder. Imagine resting beneath a sky that sees every heartbeat and answers only with sunrise, warmth, light, assurance, never punishment. As you settle deeper, you might sense the nervous system unfurl, the old warnings growing faint, the story of scarcity loosening its hold. You have never had to apologize for your light. You are only waiting to remember that being visible can be safe again. Maybe, just maybe, it was always safe in the eyes of the divine, soft and eternal, seeing you now and saying, yes, yes, yes. Let that yes echo as you drift, innocent, unhidden, beloved. There's a softness in knowing what's true, even before the mind admits it. Most don't realize how long they've been keeping things hidden, little truths tucked away behind the ribs, hopes stuffed in quiet corners, old gifts locked in old rooms. There is an ache in playing small, almost invisible, as if asking for too much sunlight would burn, or letting in too much air would uncover a secret meant to stay sealed. Many have grown accustomed to shadows and silence, practiced the art of closing curtains the moment they sense desire, hear the gentle knock of longing, or feel the golden hand of money at their door. And for so many, remaining unseen feels safer than standing where someone might witness the fullness of their wanting. The body remembers, the ancient reflex to draw the blinds, to hush the heart before it speaks, to shrink when praise or payment comes too close. It's a reflex passed down, a memory built from warnings: stay small, don't shine too brightly, don't let them see what you really want. Our hands tighten around the shutters of the soul, learning how to push gifts underwater, how to swallow light, how to apologize for taking up space. Sometimes we even convince ourselves that closing is strength, that privacy is protection, that if nobody can see the real hunger, then maybe we can't be blamed for needing to eat. So we dress our windows in careful fabric, let the world see only what feels unthreatening, harmless, appropriate. It's as if to be fully witnessed is to be caught, as if receiving is dangerous and safety lives in the shadow. A gentle breath, notice, softly, how much energy it takes to hide, each time you say you're fine when you're starving, each time you fold your wings in public but crave to soar alone. Money, too, feels the difference. It senses the house with locked doors, drawn drapes, sacred passageways. Wealth is like the wind. It loves an open window. It sweeps in toward souls that let their curtains rise. It circles around those who welcome it, unafraid to be illuminated. What if being seen was not an exposure, but an opening? What if letting the world catch a glimpse of your true desire was the safest thing you could ever allow? Consider how wealth, in all its golden memory, lines toward what is honest. Like a compass to true north, money finds the one who stands, soft but unwavering, in their own light. Like shadow drawn to flame, like a bee to nectar, like music to silence, there is a natural pull, a magnetic call. When you allow yourself to be open, wealth flows. When you allow your heart to exhale in the presence of want, the universe answers with a sigh of its own. Another breath, the opposite, the most common, is the slow suffocation of closing. It happens quietly, a little more each time. We dim the lamp before we've finished reading the story. We close the window for fear of a chill, then wonder why the air feels stuffy, why life grows stale. We decline honest praise, downplay our gifts, pretend we do not want more as if hiding desire will protect us from disappointment. Yet staleness is not safety, silence is not sanctuary. Feel the quiet ache of hiding, and how the body yearns for exposure not as shame, but as sunlight. Imagine for a moment the soul as a room with every window thrown open, curtains lifting in the daylight, fresh wind kissing the floorboards. Money, opportunity, love, all drawn in by the open invitation of your spirit's transparency. Not because you demand, but because your being is unguarded, honest. Because there is something irresistible about truth that does not flinch from being seen. Pause here. Let your breath be its own open door. Notice how, when you lift the shade, 1,000 things enter freely. Laughter and connection, recognition and ease, abundance and admiration. When you meet wealth with a face unmasked, with palms held where the sun can see, something ancient in you stirs. The old contract to hide is rewritten, replaced with readiness, replaced with the soft willingness to receive. Slow now, stretching the softness further, where others close, you unfasten. Each window you open is a signal, not just for money, but for every kind of joy. Wealth recognizes the soul that no longer apologizes for being. It follows openness like water chasing a riverbed. It knows when you're ready, knows when you unwind the old, creaking bolts and let daylight pour through the lattice. Rest witnessing the paradox. To receive, one must first be revealed, not for applause, not for permission, but for the sacred exchange that cannot happen in isolation. The universe admires confession, the subtle, glorious daring of a person who trusts they are lovable, even illuminated. Let every muscle unclench. Imagine the magnetic pull. When you stop hiding, life finds you. Money, too, enters through the place where you have turned on the light. The world cannot gift you what it cannot see. Allow ease, allow unguardedness, inhale, feeling the breeze where once there was none. Tonight, there is nothing more to close. This moment, let yourself become a window. Everything you long for is waiting outside, at the doorstep, waltzing on the wind. Stay here softly and let the dance begin. Some forms of abundance arrive softly, like the light that seeps under your door at midnight. Nothing loud. Nothing grand, simply the silent presence that covers the room in silver warmth and ease in so many places. The world teaches that to be recognized is to be roaring, that you must climb higher, burn brighter, push your voice above every other. Just to become real, but let's pause. The moon has never shouted, candle flames never reach for permission still. Whole oceans turn their heads to listen. There are patterns carved deep in the mind, stories whispered by parents, by teachers, by crowds in the square that suggest. Be louder, be more, be visible like a bell rung at midnight. Only then will life notice you, notice how tired this makes the heart. What anxious flutter circles the chest when presence is linked to performance. Every soul at one point believed it had to light fireworks, to become dazzling or relentless, or else abundance would pass by. Unnoticed, but consider, even the stars do not compete, and yet no eye could miss their gentle clarity in winter's open sky. Most people, for so long, have confused volume with value, counting how many watched, how many turned their heads, how many numbers flashing in approval, the undercurrent. If I am not seen, I am not chosen. If I am not chosen, there is no welcome here, yet here you are. Soft as candlelight, quiet as dew before the morning crowd, take a gentle breath, let it slow, let it widen. Remember how sometimes a whisper landed in your whole body more fully than a shout. There is a kind of abundance that thrives in dim-lit spaces, tucked inside the cradle of a warm, listening night. What if prosperity did not require a trumpet? What if the wealth you seek finds its way to your quietest moments, your softest edges? So many dreamers have shaped themselves into spectacles, painted brighter than their own comfort, told themselves to be more, to do more. Until the light felt heavy, until presence became something brittle or sharp. Feel your presence by the way the air shifts tonight, by the way candles bloom without bragging, by the soft hush that enters the room when dusk folds in. Breathe again, deeper. The most ancient wisdom always moved silently, a gentle ripple in the current, a blush in water. An unseen gravity pulling what is meant for you within gentle reach. Let your mind recall a time when your stillness called someone's spirit closer, without words. Without show, notice now how trust can build in softness. In quiet visibility, there is nothing to perform, nothing to uphold, nothing to force into brightness just for a moment's applause. So many try to be bigger than their bodies, louder than their hearts, but all the while the most sacred presence is given in velvet tones, in moonlit invitations. Let yourself imagine money as a glow, steady and patient, drifting to you across the floor like the expanding radius of a candle's light. No sudden flash, no demand, just a slow arrival, certain and safe, illuminating only what is yours to see, every so often. The world applauds loudness, but the soul aches for the quiet grace of being met, witnessed in gentleness, welcomed without display. Pause here, breathe in the silk of moonbeams. The gentle curve of night sheltering you. Consider all the abundance you have received silently. The comfort of a hand placed wordlessly on your back, the moment someone saw you and understood. With just their eyes and their presence, this is what true receiving feels like. The safety of being seen, not performed. The freedom of being recognized, not requested. Let yourself become luminous in your own time, in your own tender way, just as wax softens into glow, just as moonlight needs no announcement. Every cell within you is already worthy of being met. Every breath a gentle invitation. Every heartbeat a signal of presence quietly radiating. Release the pattern of chasing spotlights. Drop the old scripts that said all value is measured in volume or noise or display. Affirm now. Silently, I am felt. Even when I am silent, my light is seen. Even when it does not blaze, my worth is certain. Even when I do not strive, being seen is not about crowding out silence. Sometimes it is the silence that draws the deepest gaze. Let the candle within you burn steady, not for performance, but for warmth, not for show, but for sanctuary tonight as you settle. Notice how presence grows in shadow as much as in sun, how abundance floods gently into all the spaces you once tried to fill with noise, with each breath. Welcome your gentleness back. Notice how quietly your body anchors into the night, how softly your spirit becomes more visible, more real, more cherished, precisely in your calm, soon. You will forget the need to be loud. You might find yourself speaking less, smiling gently at the way money and love and kindness find you in the hush. Abundance is not the volume of your voice, but the clarity of your energy tonight. Let there be space for soft illumination, for wealth to arrive like moonbeams, blessing every quiet crease in your life, every hidden hope, every gentle wish you would hardly dare voice aloud. Let your presence be enough. Let the quiet glow of who you are, exactly as you are, be the abundance you rest in tonight. Breathe, let it gather around you like the softest glow. Let yourself be seen now, without needing to be loud, safe enough and gently powerful. In every shade of your own undemanding light, there's a hush that settles in the dark, a softening of edges, a place where everything you ever carried for your family, your roots, your history, slows until you can finally breathe. In this gentle quiet, the old stories grow lighter, and for a moment you are simply here, just as you are. Most people flinch at the thought of abundance, the fluttering fear that having more might mean losing connection, or belonging, or love. Most were shown, in whispers or glances or the tightening of shoulders at the mention of money, that it is safer to want little, to remain small, to not outshine. So many hearts recall, without knowing, the lines written generations ago, lines that read, "We keep our heads down, we survive by staying quiet, we do not ask for too much." And yet, here you are, on the edge of more, feeling the pulse of a different possibility inside your bones. A possibility that says, what if more for you could mean more for all? What if your rising, gentle, true, was not a vanishing but a gathering? Let your chest loosen as you listen. Feel the ache of secret guilt, the wondering if you'll be alone at the summit. Breathe into that. Let it stretch wide. For so long, wanting more may have felt like turning your back. But what if you're not walking away? What if every step you take forward leaves a lighted path behind you, soft lanterns for others to follow when they're ready? Tonight is not about abandoning anyone. Tonight is about remembering that the soul's expansion does not erase the love that came before. Instead, it honors it. Instead, it extends an outstretched hand into new prosperity, and with it, the invitation that was never spoken, but always felt, join me if you wish. Exhale, notice now. As you let the thought of more enter your field, there is an echo behind you. All those who came before. Some bowed by the weight of survival, others by the hush of dreams deferred. Their faces may rise in your mind, eyes wide with caution, or perhaps a quiet hope. Breathe in their presence. Breathe in the way they bore what they must, so you could reimagine what's possible. It is no betrayal to want more than what was given. It is no abandonment to desire the sun, if your ancestors dwelled in shade. Their strength lives in you, not as a chain, but as a root, and roots do not hold you down. They nourish what reaches up into the sky. Let yourself remember, in every tradition, there was someone who prayed for a greater harvest. Someone who dreamed in secret of the child who would dance in plenty. Someone who hoped the story wouldn't end trapped in the same old struggle. You are the living answer to prayers your ancestors barely had words to speak. What if your abundance is their relief, not their resentment? Soft breath. Let the past settle behind you, not as a shadow, but as a gathering circle. Imagine the faces, some you've met, some you never will, forming a wide, knowing ring around your spirit. Listen for their deeper message. Grow, trust, receive. Every time you welcome more and do not apologize for it, you write a new line in the family story. Every time your joy increases, the old fears soften, little by little in you and in them. Allow this to echo. You are not the one who leaves. You are the one who leads gently at your own perfect pace. Legacy is not a locked room. It's an unfolding path. Your footsteps do not erase their roads. They open new ones, lined with possibility, paved with prayers both ancient and just-born. With sleep fog settling, allow your mind to drift to other forms of abundance. The laughter that bursts freely, the words unsaid become easy, the warmth that spreads through a home finally safe enough to sing. Money is but one strand, there is so much more to receive. Every time you allow more in, you soften the old equations of pain and scarcity. Every graceful act of receiving is a healing, not just for you, but rippling backward and forward through all who share your name. Let your heart beat slow. Sense how their presence is not an anchor, but a witness. Imagine them nodding, soft smiles assured, steady hands blessing your journey. You are not alone in this room. The circle is full. And everyone in its glow knows that nothing true is ever lost. No belonging is broken by becoming. No love is less true for flowering into fullness. Allow the breath of your body to lengthen. Release any shiver of doubt as it finds your shoulders. Over and over, remind yourself in quiet, there is no betrayal here. there is arrival, there is return, there is welcome. Sometimes abundance feels like sunlight spilling through a heavy curtain, or the gentle first sip of warm tea, or the opening of a window in a stifled room. Sometimes it is the slow unspooling of tension that was never yours to hold. Sometimes it is laughter shared with the ghosts of those you love most dearly, and sometimes it is simply sleep, knowing you are safe and seen and whole. If you wake in the night, or your thoughts drift to those left behind, let their imagined hands join yours. Hear their quiet approval, inhaled deep within your chest. Your abundance is a homecoming, not a departure. Every richness you claim becomes a gift, offered at the altar of your lineage. Not a severing, but a softening. Rest now, knowing that being rich is an honoring. It is a prayer lived out loud. And every gentle, sovereign step you take forward is, and always was, a blessing for all. There's a cloak some of us were handed long ago, soft as old velvet, heavy as regret. A shame, stitched tight into the seams, pressed flat against skin familiar as breath, and twice as silent. It slips over shoulders in the dim moments when wanting is met with watchful eyes, when money glimmers at the edge of approval. And for so long it felt safer this way, keeping wealth dim, hidden, always disguised. People carry this hush in their bones, a learned law that says, stay small, don't shimmer too loudly. If you receive, tug the edges close and let abundance become invisible. Many keep their prosperity quiet, folded beneath the bed of their spirit. There's a kind of choreography to this, a ritual of shrinking, apologizing, sidestepping recognition. Money is earned, but it is also camouflaged. There is relief in shadow, a relief that no one will see you win too brightly. A relief and a loss. Money, wrapped in the shame costume, becomes something that's almost outside of the self. It's held at arm's length, handled with gloves, shown with false humility or not at all. Before the world, mask after mask is layered, downplaying worth, pretending not to notice the hunger, letting gifted dreams fade beneath the surface. Inhale the familiar scent of tucked-away dreams. Sometimes shame is mistaken for prudence, misidentified as modesty or spiritual sainthood, but its echo is fear. The fear of being seen basking in golden light. The worry that visibility will summon judgment, envy, exile. Most are taught to drape abundance in shadow, the same way you dim a lantern so it doesn't draw moths or beckon the night watchers. It's not ungratefulness, it's ancestry. It's memory, it's safety, learned not just from one's own story, but from those who came before, the ones who hid coins beneath floorboards, locked hope in diaries, or whispered blessings so quietly the world forgot to listen. The shame costume grows snug over time, shaping the way a person walks through rooms where opulence might echo. Laughter is measured, celebration is rationed, even generosity is hidden behind closed doors. In this way, shame becomes the weather of the soul, a faint chill that never quite leaves. Exhale, tension emptying out of tired muscles. Yet beneath all those layers, something ancient stirs, a memory of standing fearless in the open, hands unclenched, receiving without disguise. Before the shame, there was only light, a pure permission to be seen in the fullness of joy, to receive without apology, to let success sound like singing instead of sighing. Let the possibility hover here. What if the fabric isn't yours? What if the shame was borrowed, never meant to become skin? Feel the edges, not armor, but layers ready to soften, to slip away flame by careful flame. Others may cling to the ritual. The careful accounting, the shrinking posture, stories muttered beneath the breath about the danger of too much. Listen, that's a chorus that belongs to the past. Shadows need not be home. Notice the pull of that old costume, how it clings even when the body has outgrown it. How wealth is spoken in riddles, how pleasure arrives padded and muted. With every inhale, soften the grip. Here, breathed every exhale is an unraveling. Gentle now, let each thread loosen. Imagine peeling away the secrecy, not as tearing, but as the gentle release of silk from light. One fiber slips, then another, and the skin beneath remembers how to feel sun without flinching. Wealth unmasked is neither threat nor boast. It simply is. It's the river overflowing its banks, not to drown but to nourish. It's the garden allowed to bloom untamed after seasons of pruning. If observed long enough, even the shadows grow gentle. Sometimes the soul waits for a permission slip that never comes, searching faces for approval to cast off the old cloak. But tonight, notice. The only eyes that matter are the ones reflecting in your inner lake, gazing back with recognition, holding no demand for apology, only invitation. What happens when you let the world see you basking? What changes if shame can be set down, like an old overcoat on the first day of spring? Pause here, feel the sensation of air on the skin beneath. Novel, raw, real. The body might shiver, unused to exposure, but the heart begins to steady, slow, awake, open. Sometimes it's hard to imagine a world where money is held like laughter or long-awaited rain, a celebration, a return, a holy ordinariness. But reality can soften, the edges of old beliefs melting with each conscious breath. Others may fumble to keep their secrets. They may ask you to stay quiet, to shrink, to split yourself in order to avoid their discomfort. That's their lesson, not yours. Your abundance no longer needs to hide under furniture or fill the silence with apology. With every sigh, give back what was never truly yours. The shame was a story, a pattern, not an identity. Notice how the air feels different now, how each breath arrives with a little more freedom. Invitation, lean in. There is nothing to fix, nothing to perform, no performance to maintain. The seams of that old costume can relax. In the space that remains, truth expands. Let each inhale be a quiet revolution. Let the rhythm of wealth, uncloaked and unworried, pulse gently through the unseen corridors of self. This is not the story of hiding. This is the slow, permanent rumor of arrival. Stay in the breath, in the peeling, in the remembering. Light, once dimmed, grows brighter when allowed to. The shame was only ever a veil. Tonight, each word, each pause, is an invitation to step out from behind it. Rest here, as the old fabric pools at your feet, and the new air teaches you how to be seen. Tonight, a gentle doorway opens where breath is both an offering and a welcome. Somewhere in the quiet, a truth awaits, a quiet knowing that receiving is more than a transaction. It is a soft yes to being witnessed, an inhale saying, I exist, an exhale whispering, I am here, carried forward by the current of being seen. So often, a secret grows in the shadowed corners, the belief that to be paid is somehow a sting, a risk, a reveal, as if accepting abundance stains the purity of giving, as if the act of being witnessed in our work must be shielded, dimmed, or divided by apology. Many learn to shrink from the light. When the moment arrives to be paid, hearts hold their breath, lungs tighten as if a single inhale might draw in too much attention, too much need, a fear that dollars carry not just value but demand for visibility. Beneath it, memories press softly, times when gifts were overlooked, voices set aside, when meeting the eyes of another cost safety or peace. Receiving feels like exposure, like standing in sunlight without the shield of shadows, like a spotlight you never auditioned for, illuminating every hope and every guarded edge. And yet, tonight, breath becomes an ally. Consider the exchange of service and payment not as a trade, but as a dance, inhale and exhale, each trusting the other, each allowing space for the other's fullness. What if being paid is sacred proof you are received? What if your being, witnessed and valued, is itself a gift being offered back to the world? Notice all the ways most people learn to refuse this dance. Hiding behind small invoices, swallowing truth mid-sentence, blushing or brushing off compliments, layering disclaimers around every act of abundance. There's a habit of shrinking each ask, of apologizing for the desire to flourish, of speaking, yes, quietly, too quiet to echo in the soul. Perhaps in another life or a remembered childhood moment, receiving was tangled with guilt. Like a breath half held, like waiting your turn in a room too hungry to listen, like covering your light with the wish not to outshine someone you love. Existence felt safer in the folds of invisibility. Now, allow that memory to drift. See how generosity of receiving is no different than generous giving. One creates space for the other. Every time breath washes in, you are letting the world find you every breath out, a confirmation that there is enough. In, you are claimed. Out, you release. Being compensated is not hiding behind money, nor is it pushing forward to claim space with force. It is the tide moving to shore, waves both taken in and let go. It is the ancient rhythm of seasons, of gardens opening for rain, of sunflowers turning quietly to source their light. What if visibility, even when it brings payment, is not a risk but a service, not a demand to perform, but a permission to be fully met? Imagine payment as a breeze passing gently through a room, neither owned nor owed, but shared and acknowledged. Let each inhale be the generosity of letting yourself be seen. Let each exhale be the gratitude of giving that seeing back, a reciprocal devotion, neither one-sided nor withdrawn. Pause, breathe as if every molecule is an invitation to occupy more of your own presence. Feel how spirit, time, and skill merge here, in the quiet willingness to allow wealth to find you not as a reward for hiding, but as a reflection of wholeness. At every layer, the act of being paid can be softened. Instead of a spotlight burning cold, it is candlelight, warm, steady, gentle in its truth. Each time you are paid for your loving work, imagine all the silent witnesses, past selves, ancestors, sacred spaces within nodding in approval. Each payment is a breath taken, not stolen. Maybe the story before this one was filled with caution. Maybe wealth arrived hidden in guilt, or slipped away when nobody was looking. But here, tonight, service and being received spiral together like hands folding in prayer, like air flowing through a symphony of breaths, like water poured effortlessly from one vessel into another. Let yourself feel. To receive is not to take, but to honor the law of divine exchange. Your visibility, your readiness to be seen, becomes oxygen for community, nourishment for every onlooker who aches for permission. Being compensated is not a performance. It is allowing those you serve to meet you with presence, to participate in the holiness of circulation, like the heart welcoming and releasing blood, like tides that never judge the waves they gather or the shores they touch. If nerves surface, mate them with breath. I can be seen and safe. Let these words swirl quietly in the spaces between thoughts. I can be needed and nurtured. Inhale as one who is worthy of being found. Exhale as one who gives blessing back by existing. Every breath is an affirmation that generosity flows both out and in. Look wider, beyond money's narrow story. Notice how the unseen receive. A friend opens their laughter. A stranger thanks you in silence. Loved ones accept your attention with relief. Your receiving, when met with dignity, teaches others how to do the same. Each moment of visible, honest payment is a ripple across invisible ponds, water meeting water, kindness recognizing kindness, truth echoing through generations. Let body and mind, spirit and memory adjust together. Breathe long, slow, steady, as if wealth is returning to you in every inhale, as if you are blessing the world in every exhale. Repeat softly, with trust, with awe. Being paid is a form of being received. To be received is to be loved. To be loved is to be free. There's a gentle ache that comes with being watched, that subtle tightening of breath, the sudden shyness of spirit, as if any gaze might carry a memory of harm or judgment or some old, tightening shadow. The world has taught careful hearts to curl inwards, to find comfort in the quiet, to mistake shrinking for safety and invisibility for belonging. Eyes have not always felt warm, nor gentle, nor loving. Some eyes, real or imagined, have been cold, searching, critical, and so, somewhere along the way, the body learned to tuck wealth away where it couldn't be seen. It became a secret thing, quiet, hidden, not to be spoken aloud. Averted gaze, small voice. A wallet closed before it's even opened. It's easy, so easy to keep folding yourself smaller. Sometimes, without even knowing, arms cross around the heart, breath slows, and desires are whispered instead of sung. There are old stories that live under the ribs. Stories where to shine was to stand out, and to stand out was to risk the unpredictable gaze of others. Sometimes the nervous system remembers things the mind has forgotten. There is an echo that says, "Don't be too bright, don't want too much, don't ask for eyes to see you." Money in these stories isn't just currency, it's a spotlight, and spotlights have not always felt tender. But what if being seen held a different kind of energy? What if, for a moment, you allowed yourself to imagine eyes that watch not with hunger, nor with judgment, but with warmth, soft, golden, endlessly loving eyes, holding you in kindness like the morning sun slipping over closed eyelids? These eyes do not demand an explanation. They offer approval without condition, safety without withdrawal. Let the warmth settle, as if every cell could soften into the knowing that this gaze will not wound. There is a truth many carry close. Most people, when they feel the light of being watched, expect to be measured or found lacking. They instinctively shrink brilliance, shrink their voice, shrink their hopes of abundance, because something inside wonders if it's safe or not to be seen at all. There is an old muscle memory, shying away from praise, turning aside from opportunities, keeping gifts hidden inside slow, careful pockets. It is a protection learned young and practiced in 1,000 silent moments. Yet sometimes shrinking is its own kind of ache. Sometimes silence is heavier than sharing, and quiet is merely the echo that comes when the soul is craving to be received, just as it is, messy, loud, powerful, tender. There is a longing, even behind all the caution, a longing for eyes that celebrate, for presence that feels like a gentle hand resting on your shoulder, for the safety of being effortlessly supported. There is a hush, and then there is the hush that comes before finally letting yourself be met. Let your breath drop, slowly, quietly, as if you were lying beneath the soft glow of 1,000 friendly candles. Each candle a witness, each flame a loving presence. No demands, no sharp corners, just the slow reassurance that illumination can be sanctuary too. Remember, not all who watch you want anything but your well-being. A pause here. Release the story that every spotlight wounds. Take another breath. Let your body sink deeper into this space, into the place where being noticed is no longer a threat, but an invitation to be recognized in your brilliance. Money can feel like a spotlight, yes, but it can also be a hearth. It can be a circle of hands, open and tender, ready to catch every dream that tumbles forth. It can be a silent blessing resting on your skin, the way starlight slips into a darkened room, the way wildflowers bloom with no need for apology or hiding. There are eyes, real and unseen, who have prayed for you to flourish. There is a world that needs your gifts to surface, that aches to see you take up space with ease and holy confidence. Notice, again, the warmth of being seen with love. Imagine the way it would feel if each glance toward your abundance were simply a silent nod of respect. Not a threat, an honoring. What if visibility was pillow soft? What if the world, instead of pressing in sharp, offered its hands open, cradling your success the way early sunrise cradles the world before the noise begins? Let yourself linger in that warmth. Breathe and notice the way your ribcage expands. Notice the shiver that runs through the places that still worry, still brace, still remember hands that once withdrew instead of welcoming your light. Let them all relax, one at a time. A slow untangling. Think of all the ways that healing appears. Not with a crash, not with a command, but with an invitation to risk letting yourself be seen, not because the world deserves it, but because your own soul longs for the freedom of openness. Imagine how peace feels when you no longer need to tuck any part of yourself away just to feel safe. Visibility is not always a glare. Sometimes it is the warmth of sunlight on your back on a cold morning. The way arms open to receive you home, the sound of your name spoken with true affection. It can be the whisper of approval, even when you do nothing. It can be the patient pause before a friend lets you finish, instead of rushing to speak over your truth. Let your muscles feel that. Let your skin grow familiar with the sensation of being washed in love, not scrutiny. Before you shrank, in this softness you rise. Before you tucked dreams away in silence. Here you let them breathe in the open without fear. With each breath, notice how your body feels more spacious, your heart less armored, your mind more willing to trust the gaze that meets you with reverence. Abundance is not for hiding. Wealth comes to those who are willing to stand fully in the sun, stand quietly in holy witness. Let the gentle gaze of loving eyes remind them, not all watching hurts. Some watching heals. Some seeing is sacred. Stay a while. Rest in the safety of being seen, not just for what you offer, but for who you already are, as you are, always safe here. There's a hush in the world that lingers around those who dare to hold abundance in their open palms. A soft, unspoken story that teases the edges of the heart, whispering that maybe, to want gold, to wear it, to let it shimmer boldly against your skin, is to ask for too much. Most fold themselves around those whispers, pulling their radiance inside their ribs, and concealing the glitter that once called to their ancestors. The old stories taught us that too much gold meant too much attention, and too much attention could unravel safety. Somewhere, we learned to shrink the expanse of our dreams. Dwarf the sun-warm gleam of plenty. The hands that want to create end up curling inward, as if hiding their own possibility. What a strange forgetting, traced through generations, after all once To walk in gold was to walk in harmony with the unseen priestesses in golden robes, crowned not from arrogance, but from remembrance, ancient empresses, their wrists adorned, their fingers shining, never apologizing for the sacredness of their abundance. Breathe a what if now is your season to unlearn those hidden, hushed beliefs. What if letting your gifts gleam in the open, like coins in sunlight, was once the purest ritual? There is nothing in you that needs to hide, soften, or shrink. Your soul was etched for this visibility. Your worth is not fragile. It is forged, it is gold upon gold, layered deep as the crowns forgotten in the earth. Pause for a moment. Feel what it might be like to slip your hands from your pockets, let them open, and see that they are not empty. Light gathers in the lines of your palms, just as surely as lifetimes gather behind your name. Most of the world is still hiding. Most grip their hands tight, keeping their gifts unseen, safe from envy, safe from scrutiny, safe from need, or so it seems. But what would it look like instead to live as if wealth was not danger but devotion? How would it feel to unclench the shame threaded through your knuckles and allow yourself to be seen, utterly, honestly, in your fullness? Exhale. There are those still who wrap themselves in invisible robes, shadowing their beauty, masking their plenty. Maybe they twist gold into something silent, wearing it inside, afraid that radiance would make them a target in the night. But the ancient ones did not tremble when the sun made them luminous. Each golden thread spoke of anointing, of belonging to something vaster than scarcity, of being marked by the divine for more than secrecy. Let breath run slow and deep. This is a gentle remembering that sacredness and visibility can flow together. To be witnessed is not a curse, it is a coronation. To be seen in one's abundance, with gold dusting your fingers, with laughter ringing out like silver coins, with head held as if wearing a circlet only the soul can recognize. This is a lineage reclaiming itself. Breathe softly here. Most are taught to tuck away the very things that could bless the world. To apologize for beauty, to downplay ease, to misname joy as greed. But the old temples did not hide their treasures. They lined their steps in gold not for vanity, but for remembrance. How many moments have you shrunk your celebration, softened your successes, dimmed your own shine so that no one would call you too much? How many times have you believed that real safety comes from emptiness or from invisibility? Let the breath move in. Let it move out, slow and warm as honey. Tonight, the sermon is an unraveling of fear's soft stitching, an unwinding of the thought that having gold on your hands is something to explain away. Your generosity is not a negotiation. Your riches, however they arrive, need not be justified. The swing of a golden robe, the weight of a sacred necklace, the echo of blessings spoken over fullness. These are the soul's old inheritance, returning to claim you. Imagine this. What if wanting to be seen, wanting to stand in the center of blessing, was as holy as any silent prayer? What if the world's gaze is not danger, but a mirror preparing you for all you have secretly called in? Breathes again. There are still echoes of those who hid. Maybe you know their voice, maybe you carry a trace of their worry, but breath by breath, the body can learn a new script. The nervous system unfurls, as if remembering that gold is not an enemy, it is quiet here. The night is safe for shining. Every slow rhythm is telling your cells. It is time to be seen. It is okay for your hands to glimmer, for your life to call attention, for your presence to radiate wholeness. Let yourself rest in this truth. The old hiding does not serve the new dawn. Gold wants to be worn. Wealth wants to be witnessed. Radiance is not something to apologize for. It is proof that you belong to a lineage both ancient and becoming. Let it soften through you. Let the breath move like silk across an altar. Let gold rest upon your hands, and let the world see. Let yourself arrive in the gentle hush where wanting becomes safe again. Somewhere beneath defenses and softened edges, desire waits. Breath slows here, as if the soul leans close, gathering what the mind dropped, one dream at a time. Notice how the air shifts, no need to chase, no need to prove. Just the steady warmth of aliveness, inviting you home to yourself. Imagine for just a moment, what if all those wishes you've hidden weren't too much, but weren't enough? What if the ache to expand, to receive, to shine, what if it isn't greed, but memory? A gentle tide returning you to the shoreline you forgot you left. Most have been told to hush hunger, compress joy, trim hope into something more manageable. The world, trembling around the idea of too muchness, teaches us to shrink light so no one else feels shaded. Releasing that old fear, feel the muscles relax, breathe in, feel an old story drift apart. Exhale, let the shape of your truest longing pour into the space. See how children reach for what glitters, how their wonder doesn't apologize. Before you learned to hide your gifts, before apologies coated what you wanted. Before you ever called yourself greedy, or felt the sting of envy for simply noticing more was possible, you grew up in a world that confuses suppression with virtue. Heavy curtains pulled over abundance, as if shadow honors the sacred. Here tonight, you let some of these knots unravel, not by tearing them away, but by inviting light in thread by gentle thread. If you close your eyes now, sense the legacy of lifetimes, of ancestors who wore smallness as a shield. It kept them safe perhaps, but left the music half played. Their caution breathes in your cells, and so does their unfinished hope. There's a reason the body tenses at the thought of being seen, in brilliance, in contentment, in fullness. Sometimes being witnessed has meant danger, judgment, exposure. But what if being witnessed is also the key, being seen as you truly are, wanting what is honest enough real? Let a softer truth settle. The desire in you is original, and it is not a threat. It is remembrance. Not accumulation for armor, but open hands to receive with reverence. How would it feel if the world didn't punish your wishing, but blessed it? Rest into the possibility that wealthy souls are not greedy, but healed. Imagine if wanting wasn't separation, but sacred reweaving, mending what once was splintered. Trust, pleasure, permission. Let the word abundance cross your lips without shrinking. Just this once, breathe softly now, as if each inhale plants a new garden where lack once curled. Exhale, and a little more shame drops away, joining the wind, no longer needed. When you pause at the threshold of receiving, what rises? Guilt, fear that others will withhold love when you thrive. Notice these old echoes, let them ripple outward, dissolving. You are not greedy for remembering wholeness. You are gathering lost pieces. Every desire, every longing, a tiny shard of memory asking to return. This is not about consumption or hoarding. This is about soul esteem, the holy mirror where your worth is not tallied by others' scarcity. It is the soft certainty that you are not too much, not too hungry, not too radiant. You were never meant to fold yourself smaller. Tonight, let another version of abundance introduce itself. It's not the gold locked in vaults, the swollen accounts, the endless accumulation. It's the golden current circulating, what Kabbalists call tikkun, healed desire, restoring the whole abundance system, inside and out. As you listen, what if you are not just mending your story, but weaving new safety into the human tapestry? Each time you let yourself be seen, allow yourself to ask, gently open to more, you rewrite the generational script. There is room for you here, soften again. Notice how safety settles when you refuse to judge your own appetite. Let the slow river of breath remind you there are worlds between needing and deserving. Here, need is not lack, and deserving is not earned. Worth is origin, not outcome. What changes when you see desire as the way your soul speaks through the body? How does the chest feel when you unclench from denying yourself? Imagine doors swinging open, light in every hallway. Consider a time when you were told to shrink, to settle, to quiet your joy. Inhale for her, exhale for him. Breathe for all the times you called yourself selfish, or were called selfish for wanting what was yours to receive. Beneath all those inherited patterns, be smaller, be quieter, be grateful for crumbs. There's a thrum of something true. The old programming kept you safe, perhaps, but you are safer still in your fullness. Rest here, surrounded by softness, by the possibility that every deep wanting is simply a map, back to a home where abundance circulates without guilt or fear or apology. Let this moment stretch, repeat quietly in your own way. It is safe to want. It is kind to let myself expand. I have always belonged to the entire golden field, never the corners. Here I am enough to receive, breathe, and be witnessed in plenty. When the mind circles back to doubt, pause. Let the comfort of slowness wrap you, the hush around honesty, the forgiveness that comes with remembrance. Allow soul esteem to be the foundation you drift off to now. There is no urgency. No need to prove worthiness or make yourself tiny to fit what was never meant for you. You are not greedy for remembering what is sacred. You are only returning. And as you return, abundance walks by your side, quiet as breath, steady as sunrise, safe as love, as you. There is a place within, so quiet, where the idea of being seen no longer holds a sharpness. Instead, it becomes the softest unfolding. Not a spotlight nor an interrogation, just a gentle sunrise that refuses to hide. Most have been taught, through careful whispers or generations layered in caution, that visibility means invitation, to judgment, to harm, to being misunderstood. The body remembers even when the mind says, "It's safe now." Fingers tighten, voice softens, eyes scan before opening wider. The air feels thick with the memory of shrinking, years upon years of dimming, of keeping sacred things obscured. Like a pearl cupped tight in your palm, believing only darkness can keep it whole. But what if eyes upon you were not daggers, but lanterns, warm with kindness? What if the gaze you fear was simply seeking to witness the same light it holds inside? Pause, let the idea drift. One breath, one spirit anchored deeper each time. There is a story, your story, unfolding in the sea wind, each heartbeat a lighthouse. Not summoning danger, not calling the storm, but guiding only what's meant for you, the friendly ships, the gentle hands, the easy welcome of right relationship. The world has told you, be small, the ocean is wild, and storms approach those who stand tall. But storms may rage far away, and the lighthouse stands, not to challenge the sea, but to call the ships that carry promise safely home. Notice how soft the beacon glows, not blinding, not desperate. It simply exists, shining because it cannot help but shine. No frantic motion, just the steady rhythm again and again. When you allow yourself to be seen, from the marrow of softness, you do not invite attack. You draw into orbit those who are seeking your light. The ones wandering in search of safe harbor, who have waited entire lifetimes for the permission you grant them by being exactly who you are. Breath slows, chest opens. Allow the steadiness to take root and the pulse to echo, I am safe here. I am witnessed in my truth, and it is enough. Often, money feels like a reason to hide. Voices tangle. I can't charge that much, it's too much. If I am abundant, something will be taken from me. If I receive openly, who will come for me then? These stories lodge themselves inside, tracing old patterns of survival. But abundance wishes only to meet honesty. Wealth is not a prowler in the dark. It responds to the lighthouse, clear, unwavering, honest in its location. Let the metaphor slow, stretch. Imagine 3 lighthouses in 3 different storms. In one, the beam is frantic, wild sweeps as if to warn away the world. In another, the light is jammed shut, afraid of attention, afraid of notice, refusing to shine. And in the last, the beam flows in slow circles, soft and certain. Unhurried, its glow never searching, only showing. This one becomes the point of alignment. Ships gather here, guided by truth, drawn by resonance, trusting the steadiness. Value is exchanged, not in chaos, but in a quiet harboring. Money, love, and safety, woven together in the night tide. The fear of visibility is always a fear of misalignment. If I am seen, will I be attacked? If I am found, will I be left? If I am revealed, will I be enough or too much? Again, pause, let the questions soften. With every breath, remember, alignment draws the ones who see you as you are, not as what fear predicts. Let your body release, shoulders melting, hands resting, jaw gentle. Each inhalation a whisper. It's allowed, even now, even now. Each exhalation a surrender. The ones who arrive when you are visible are the ones willing to honor your boundaries, your rhythm, your value. No convincing, no performing, no holding breath. You become the invitation to relationship, not the target for attack. Notice the tide shifting. Imagine a shoreline at dusk, each wave brushing up, never questioning its place. The sand does not pull away, it receives. The moon sees the shore, sees every contour and corner, and never turns away. Love enters in this way, easy and revealable. When you are visible in your honest need and your sacred enoughness, love finds its way without force. You may have spent seasons camouflaging the most precious pieces, burying the gold, tucking away the strong currents, hoping safety meant silence. Yet the deepest safety is in being found by what is resonant. Alignment is the gentle sorting, the patient invitation. The lighthouse does not apologize for its height, its brightness, or its presence on the cliffs. It does not shrink for smaller vessels or dim in a storm. It simply stands, so the worthy ships find their route home. Let your awareness rest on this image. You are the lighthouse and the safe harbor. You are the homecoming and the call. Every resource, every relationship, every support that belongs to your soul will find you by your being. They need to see you. Not everyone is meant to arrive, but those that do will be searching for your light, not for your armor. Breathe slowly, 3 times, each breath a clearing, a softening. What if the ones you draw are those who welcome your truth? What if being seen is healing, not hazardous? What if the ones who come want only to find you, whole, receptive, unabashed in your glow? In this slow unveiling, wealth rearranges within you. Instead of rushing toward the world or hiding from the gaze, you soften into the receiving like the light waiting for the ship, and the ship waiting for the light. Both belong, no part to hide, no need to apologize for radiance. Be the lighthouse calling what is ready, releasing what is not, and trusting that the alignment is safety itself. Night deepens, the waves quiet, and in this silence, visibility is no longer the threat, but the invitation. So let yourself rest, no closing, no shrouding, but open to the homecoming your light was always meant to be. There is an ancient breath that presses against the glass of your chest, the hush between the worlds where longing becomes permission, and permission becomes peace sometimes. The soul remembers the ache, the one that wasn't want but wonder. The longing not for things, but for wholeness. Softly, it surfaces, the belief tucked in the corners of so many hearts, that to be holy you must turn away from gold, as though God is jealous of your fullness. As though spirit isn't the source of every harvest, every green and glinting thing. Most have been taught to hide their wattage, to crowd themselves behind apologies, shrinking against the sun of their own becoming. So often, spiritual longing and material longing shapeshift into guilt, doubt, tender recoil. The mind remembers sermons that whispered, "Smallness is safety, want is wicked." There is a cloak sewn from centuries, draped heavy on shoulders that ache to become more. Some try to cast it off through force, others clutch it tighter, and never notice the garden blooming beneath their feet. Most have practiced disappearing, becoming invisible, tucking away every shimmer, convinced that being seen in abundance is a risk, not a reunion when a dream flickers or a desire calls. How quietly the old question rises. Will this make me less worthy? Will more make me less? In gentle houses and hallowed halls the message drifts. Holiness is in absence, not arrival, but love. Love knows no such math, not in the ancient poetry of Rumi's joy, not in the sunbeams of Hafiz's laughter. And so the body pulls back from the table it's already been offered, holding empty bowls, hiding open palms. Just in case fullness offends the stars, breathing in, breathing out, imagine loosening that centuries-old mantle. Feel the tension give way. Let the night air brush bare shoulders. Let the garden scent rise. Consider how quietly the heart can bloom when suspicion softens. When holiness is not abstinence but astonishment, not poverty of self but presence. Breathing, sensing, letting go, echoes ripple. Some say love is all, but then ask you to shrink to receive it. Some bless the beggar and distrust the sovereign. But Rumi spun in circles, arms outstretched, turning the longing for gold into longing for God, turning longing for God into a golden everything. There is a wound here, not of greed, but of division, of being taught to choose between tenderness and thriving. Pause, let yourself breathe into the space between. If you close your eyes, the line dividing spirit and substance blurs. Gold dust and candlelight, bread and blessing. Everything holy has form. Every form can be holy. Let it unwind, breath by breath. The old voices echo less. The new feeling grows, a sense of being allowed to let in what wants to come. A softening, like morning petals unfurling, the body remembers what it's always known. Home is not smaller than longing, but wide enough to hold it all. Imagine standing before a never-ending table. Grapes, honey, sweet water, every color. Not for hoarding, not for proving, just for being, for the sheer beauty of receiving yourself in the feast of existence. Even now old patterns arise, perhaps a need to dim, to explain, to promise not to need much. Another breath, weight melts, tension slips away. The table remains. The invitation deepens, money, like music, flows where it is welcomed, lingers where it is enjoyed. Wealth is not a bribe, nor a bruise. It is not apology nor armor. It is an echo, sometimes gentle, sometimes roaring, of the soul's permission to be met, to be filled. Let those worn-out warnings drift out of reach. Halos do not tarnish with gold. Hearts do not harden with enough. There is a hidden current deep underneath, teaching the true seeker that enough is not a ceiling, but a song. A pause here, gather breath. What if your devotion was never meant to be traded for less? What if your prayers arrived faster, not because you gave up longing, but because you let longing become beloved. In the hush, recall the poems that crown every empty hand with light, Hafiz's laughter, the moon's gifts, Rumi's emphasis on love as the only real scripture. Notice the subtle tug, the urge to defend wanting, to hide what glimmers. Soften again. There is no need to squeeze yourself into vows of lack. Let your birthright stretch further, gentle, easeful, holy. When you allow yourself to expand, there is no betrayal. Only a reunion of all parts, all joys, every breath, and the memory that holiness never demanded hunger, only honesty. Stay with each inhale. Know that the field of abundance isn't outside, isn't a storm to survive, isn't a contest you must win. Love doesn't measure the worthy by what they refuse, but by how freely they receive what is already theirs. Again, soften. Imagine a cloak melting away, the lightness of standing unashamed in the miracle of being provided for. There are old stories, yes. Some echo in the body still. Faith and wealth cannot dance together. But the greatest mystics sang abundance while barefoot in the fields, carrying bread in one hand, sunlight in the other. Breathe. Let it settle. With every moment you claim more life, softness grows, not shadow. There is a kind of richness that heals separation, one that nurses all the old parts back to wholeness. It comes not from chasing, but from ceasing to scatter. Rest in this knowing. There is no doorway you need to fit through, no performance you must maintain. The divine does not ration what was made in love. Your worth is established, your desires already sacred, your abundance simply a truth waiting to be lived, slowly, gently, in the knowing that holy and wealthy are one and the same when the heart is clear. Let this console whatever part has feared expansion, to whisper not a warning but an invitation. You can be seen, you can be blessed, you can be met in fullness and still belong to the light. Breathe and let the truth ripple through every sleeping cell now. There is a deep, slow truth waiting under every day you rush through. Perhaps it's been there always, a hush, a whisper, a quietness under the noise. Somewhere inside, you may have felt the door was too heavy, the invitations must be earned, that the table was set for someone more prepared, more perfect, more certain than you are now. In the gentle space between thoughts, breathing, most have learned the art of holding back, of shrinking, of blending into the wallpaper just enough to avoid the ache of being told, not yet. You might remember the skill of apologizing for your arrival, the vigilance of looking for a sign, hoping proof would appear that it is safe to take up room, to be seen as whole, to want and want again. Maybe you noticed yourself deferring, pausing at the threshold, waiting for a hand to gesture you forward, a reservation made in your name, an audible permission. Perhaps you felt the pulse of making yourself smaller in salary negotiations, in friendships, in desire. The idea of a table always waiting for you, of a place already yours, deeply known, can feel strange and at first impossible. Take another breath, slow, like you are tasting the air for sweetness. What if space was never the problem? What if the table has always had more chairs, more warmth, more bread, more light than anyone could use up? What if it was never about proving you belong, but about remembering you already do? There's a timing to being witnessed. So many of us grew up dimming, folding, making ourselves palatable, shape-shifting to what the oldest room could handle. It was never about lack, only the nervous memory that attention might not be gentle, that safety can be found in shadows. There's muscle memory to hiding. Let yourself soften here. Imagine breath as fresh linens draped over shoulders you forgot you had. For years, the opposite was worshipped, speed instead of presence, scrapping for leftovers instead of leaning back, asking for less as a way to prove goodness or humility. Some nights you might remember saying no to what you genuinely wanted, not for lack of hunger, but out of hope that longing would be less dangerous if kept secret. Give yourself a private, golden moment right here. Exhale tension that says you are in someone else's seat. Let the ground beneath remind you it is always ready to cradle you. There has never been a roster to check, a velvet rope to cross, a spotlight pointing out your imperfections. Notice the breath, the gentle slow of your chest as you imagine a banquet unhurried, with a place set precisely for you. No beggar's bowl, no need to explain your reasons for arriving, no competition for the kindness of life. What if worthiness was so intimate it preceded your own self-knowing? What if belonging is not a verdict, just a state you can relax into again and again, with the same certainty as twilight returning each evening? You're allowed to stretch here, to unfurl, to let your edges return. You can remember what it feels like to lean back, palms pressed to the tabletop, effortless. The table does not question your hunger, does not keep score, does not tally your gifts for some faraway judge. The only mathematics is abundance, multiplication of welcome, spaciousness that expands the longer you sit there. Feel the difference in your muscles. Before you may have tensed, now perhaps a softening, like loosening the laces around an old injury. Before you might have bargained, shrinking the shape of your appetite to fit into smaller places. Now notice a breath that grows wider, more loving with each silent moment. If closeness has ever felt borrowed, if you were trained to apologize for your needs, feel how quietly that narrative melts when you let existence hold you. Imagine the seat is warm, the room lit in golden tones. Listen as silence itself affirms. You are welcome here. Take another slow inhale. Let the moment linger. Others may have learned to hide because money, success, or visibility felt precarious. Survival taught them to be furniture instead of guest, observer instead of recipient. The body knew how to dodge envy, how to clutch longing in hidden palms. Tonight, return to the ease of being invited, not because you performed, but because you exist. Let the picture stretch further. What if abundance was as patient as water, adapting to whatever vessel you provide? What if, instead of running, hiding, or hustling for scraps, you walked in slow, certain, soft, trusting that your seat would always be kept warm? What if the table, the host, and the meal were all different ways existence keeps asking you to relax? Allow your system to register this truth. Let it echo in every quiet space between thoughts. No more crowding at the door. No more standing on tiptoe, trying to see if there's room. No more trading parts of yourself for the illusion of enough. The table, your sacred space, is already set. It has always known your name. Breathe in that knowing. Surrender to its spaciousness. Let your heart reacquaint itself with arrival. You have never been late. There is a quiet, subtle weight that lingers whenever light is about to break through, a hush before radiance, as if your own brilliance knocks gently at the door, waiting to be let inside. What if this moment, just before you allow yourself to be seen, carries old stories, woven through your body, your breath, your memory? Sometimes the act of shining feels tangled in 1,000 invisible threads, each spun from childhood memories, ancestral echoes, the soft warnings of well-meaning voices. Don't stand out too much, don't reach too high, don't let them see you glow. Most are taught to believe in caution where there is glory, to shrink themselves before celebration, to tiptoe after achievement. When things go beautifully, whispers of "it won't last," "be careful," or "what if they resent you?" rise like shadows curling in the corners of bounty. You might have seen others win, then fall, win, then falter. At some point, your nervous system learned this equation. More light always means more risk. That to become visible is to invite consequence. That joy must be rationed, or hidden, or softly disguised beneath humility and apology. Yet the universe, patient as breath, asks softly, what if nothing goes wrong when you let yourself shine? What if every story of punishment or loss after joy was just a page, not the book? What if every shimmer of your being was already safe, already blessed, already seen and adored for its truth? Let the layers unravel here. Quietly breathe in. Acknowledge the urge to shrink, the small recoils before every miracle, the hesitation at the threshold of abundance. Honor the part of you that waits for the other shoe, the script that predicts the punishment after the prize. Breathe out. What if that outcome belongs to an old world, an expired dream, a fear handed down but never truly yours? Allow this breath to hold space for a new memory, where your glow is not dangerous, but destined. It is not your fault the nervous system clings to old patterns. Generations before you learned to survive by blending in, by veiling their delights, by making themselves smaller than the love and wealth they summoned. Maybe they endured because of it. Maybe they vanished so you could appear. But the alchemy of now whispers. The contracts are dissolved, the agreements expire as you exhale. Let this night be the undoing, a slow untangling, a new rhythm. Every time you breathe in, imagine the cells remembering. Safety can be found not in the hiding, but in the softness of being seen. Notice the quiet thrill that sparkles at the edge of your prosperity, the anticipation not of retribution, but of recognition. Here it is gentle to receive, humble to accept, holy to allow. So often we learn to mask our gifts, to ask for just a little, to keep the best part of ourselves tucked out of sight. The law of assumption, elliptical and loving, asks, what if the simplest assumption is also the most profound? That you are safe, no matter how visible your radiance, that the universe feels joy in your increase, that nothing is waiting to punish you for blooming. Let Neville Goddard's whisper mingle with your own inner speech. What if imagining the good, quietly and consistently, was enough to seed a life where the fallout never comes? What if, when you expect tenderness after your triumph, only tenderness arrives? You are the operant power, even as you doze. Every gentle thought shapes the landscape of tomorrow. Every assumption rebirths itself as fact. Breathe in, feel the trembling anticipation, as if something terrible should follow good news. Notice that trembling is not prophecy, only memory. Notice that the body can let go, layer by layer. Unclench the old signals. And drop the ceremonial armor. This is not the night you need to guard your heart. Breathe out, feel the release as you let the old teachings dissolve. The caution, the superstition, the subtle self-betrayals. Acknowledge gently, yes, the world has wounded those who shone, but your soul has come to rewrite the ending. Before, perhaps, you celebrated with hesitation. Now, let celebration linger. Before, perhaps every gain was met with bracing. Now, let gratitude stand unguarded, like a child in sunlight, arms open. Instead of bracing for a loss, what if you braced? To receive softer, to widen gently, to spill over with goodness. In money, let the wealth that arrives bring only more beauty, more space, more invitations to share life as you are. In love, let being cherished deepen the calm in your bones. In safety, let the world feel bigger, not more dangerous when your heart is finally witnessed. In time, let each moment unfurl without dread, Without the ghost of this won't last. Breathe in, you are allowed to stay here in your glow. Let the moment blossom, unhurried. Let the light land on your face, unrepentant. Don't pull back. Don't apologize for the bloom. Breathe out, feel the melody of relief, the new pattern awakening where the old was stuck. Let the nervous system choose wonder over wariness. Let the psyche open, petal by petal, to a new likelihood. Nothing goes wrong when you shine. Not anymore. Every lineage ends somewhere. Every pattern changes in a single exhale. You are the hinge where the story shifts, from bracing for loss to expecting peace, from hiding the miracle to letting it be known, felt, shared. What if tonight you accustomed your heart to joy after joy? What if, instead of snatching away your gifts before they draw attention, you let the gifts multiply, soft and wild? What if tonight becomes the first of many, where your radiance is sheltered, supported, expanded, not as a test, but as a new law written in your rest, sealed in your breath, carried into every waking moment to come? Breathe in, you're gently safe here. Breathe out, you're gently free here. In every echo of your light, the world listens kindly. Nothing goes wrong when you shine. Rest in this knowing, again and again, as softly as dawn. There's a memory that lives in the corners of your heart, one you might not remember until the night hushes everything else. You can almost see it, the little you soft eyes peeking out from behind a curtain. Maybe a velvet one, maybe cotton, weighted at the hem, safe in its folds. The whole world on the other side of that fabric, breathing, shimmering, carrying possibility. And you inside the hush, behind the veil, heart racing with the question. If they saw all that I've carried, would anything stay the same? Sometimes it's easier to sink back deeper into the quiet. Sometimes smallness feels like peace, a hush instead of a howl. Hold that here for a moment and breathe. In and out, it's gentle to disappear. For years, the safest place felt like the shadows, just beyond the shine. Let attention belong to someone else for now. Let celebration float over your head instead of through your chest. You learned it carefully. Not every room will welcome the size of your soul. Not every gaze can see gently. Not every space loves someone who speaks abundance without apology. Exhale just a little softer. What did hiding give you? Maybe another precious day without scrutiny. Maybe another week without envy, rivalry, or anyone asking, who does she think she is? Maybe you learned the fine art of blending in softening edges, lowering voice, shrinking wish after wish so no dream threatens anyone's comfort. Money, too, learned to tiptoe. Blessings whispered their way to you, but not loud enough to disrupt the silence. Breathe with me. Let your body remember the tense relief of not being seen. Inhale deeply, but notice how, inside the hush, your own voice became a ghost. Notice how opportunities glanced past, your hands still half clenched behind the curtain. The world's treasures didn't leave. You just watched them from a shadowed distance, wincing at your own wanting. The child behind the curtain, waiting, just for a sign that it was safe to step forward. Every reassurance was a thin blanket at best. None of it truly warmed you. What if nothing you hid ever truly stayed hidden? What if, beneath every act of disappearance, your true self kept shining, soft but undimmed? Like moon through gauze, like sun filtered by heavy clouds, like a hidden spring bubbling under earth, still finding cracks, still soaking roots. Your inner tide is not waiting to be given permission. Breathe in the possibility. When you learned that being invisible meant safety, your body clung to it. The mind, like a trusted guard, wove stories about being careful, about protecting privilege, about not being too much in a world that learned to fear fullness. But now, as breath slows, can you see how that armor grew heavy? Can you feel the tightness around your chest, the lock on your throat? Hiding hasn't made you smaller, it's just wrapped you, over and over, in layers of waiting. Let each exhale loosen one. In and out, let go. Somewhere there's a memory stitched into money itself. The first time you felt the weight of judgment, the first time you wondered if a gift was too big, a paycheck too luminous, a wish too dazzling to whisper. You might have apologized for the sunlight, even indoors. You might have given and given until only crumbs remained, as though lack could ever buy you safety. Pause here. Let your heart realize it's not ungrateful to want, nor is it dangerous to receive. Picture the child at the edge of the curtain again, fingers clutching, heart pounding. Wondering if the world beyond is cold or kind, will the audience jeer, or will someone reach out their hand? The mind inventories every past time exposure stung, when love vanished or intimacy snapped. But what if the next moment is different? What if, just for a breath, the light is not a threat but an invitation to exhale deeper, to let the chest flood open and nerves thread roots into the earth? Let yourself drift into that maybe. They told you, perhaps in wordless glances, that shining called forward danger. The tallest poppy cut, the brightest star watched too closely. But the night sky never apologizes for its constellations. It just allows itself to be seen, again and again. Like wealth, like tenderness, like destiny itself, nothing is ever truly secure in hiding. Even when you think you're protected, life keeps searching for you. Let that truth melt through your nervous system, limb by limb. Inhale and unclench. You learn to read the room before reading your own soul's lines. Money waited until no one was watching. Permission given in shadows, success only if small enough to hide under a napkin. But abundance is a current. It seeks what is open, not what is camouflaged. Imagine the river, the sunlight, the song. Notice how the ones who receive with ease rarely hide. They are porous, alive, witnessed. Maybe there's a heartbeat there, longing to surface. Maybe, just for tonight, it can peer out with you. Linger here in the in-between. Between wanting to slip away and longing to dissolve into presence. The curtain is soft, but your softness is braver. What if being seen was not just survivable, but sacred? What if the truest safety was always found when you allowed life to reflect you? Fully, kindly, no edits required. What if overflow was never meant to be hidden, but shared, no longer a secret, but a sunrise? Feel the pulse under your skin. Breathe wider, longer, slower. Your money is not meant for shame. Your love is not a secret to tuck away. Your every miracle, your deepest joy, is not too much for anyone seeking truth. The universe does not reward those who dim, but those who remember the divine inheritance of simple, open-hearted presence. Whisper to that inner child, peering beyond velvet and shadow, that the world may feel sharp, but they are not only safe. They are necessary, irreplaceable, awaited. Tonight, let the illusion unwind from your chest. There was never real safety in the hush, only the fantasy of stillness. But real security breathes in witness. The eyes that catch your light, the hands that receive your gifts, the abundance that finds you precisely when you finally decide to appear. Stay with that, let each cell realize it's possible now. It has always been possible. Even if you drift, your soul will remember how safe it can feel. No longer behind the curtain, but opening the window wide, letting evening pour in, letting yourself be seen, letting wealth notice you at last. Breathe all the way in and rest. There is a quiet in you that knows how to be seen without needing a single thing. Not applause, not agreement, not even understanding, just the slow unfolding of presence, as real as breath. Most have learned to be visible with a trembling hope. If I am bright enough, quiet enough, flawless enough, praise will come, safety will follow, wealth might be allowed. It's a gentle ache, this reaching out and curling in, like the way a hand lingers between offering and hiding, like a flower bracing in the wind, not sure if the sun means blessing or burn. Sometimes your radiance waits for permission, shrinking, then stretching, then shrinking again. Exhale here and notice how, in the quietest corners, the urge to perform has never brought the safety it promised. Approval can flutter in, bright and brief, then fade with the next shift of another's gaze. To be witnessed as you are, not as you try to be, is something softer than applause. It is the soft recognition of shared existence, breath for breath, heartbeat for heartbeat. Often, the world teaches a different mathematics. Visibility equals value, worth is earned in the theater of efforts, love is rewarded for the best performance. Such lessons wrap the heart in old silks, heavy with patterns, memories, generational scripts. There are so many ways to become what is wanted, instead of easing into what is true. Soften your breath, unravel the threads of doingness, just for this moment. Longing to be seen can contract into a mask, then a costume, then a script. Each layer another defense, sometimes gentle, sometimes desperate. Wealth, too, can become a set piece, a curtain behind which someone hides, hoping the role is enough and no one glimpses the trembling underneath. But being seen is not applause. Presence is not a prize. Sit in the formlessness for just another moment. Imagine worth that has no script, like rain shaping the mountain, like moonlight landing on water, like soft wind making itself known by the way leaves turn. What would it mean to be witnessed without practice, without rehearsal, without the ache for control? To let the truth of who you are simply take shape, as Zen masters suggest, in the slow blooming of what is real, effortless, unhurried belonging. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw unclench, let the breath move lightly through the body, like a gentle tide returning again and again, never seeking approval from the shore, just arriving, just receding, just being. It is not performance that creates safety. Even gold, when held too tightly or displayed for show, becomes only another tension, another fear to lose. But gold nestled in open hands, resting without defense, can be shared, can be blessed, can be seen without demand. So too is your presence, shaped softly by formless truth, passing gently through each moment, never striving to impress but always arriving whole. There are rooms within you that have only ever heard applause for doing, for serving, for achieving. Rings and echoes, yes, the script is familiar. But here, inside this hush, you are not an actor, nor an audience. There are no lines to recite, no masks to hold up, no cues to hit. Just the presence that arrived with your first breath, before the world taught you to earn your space. Every time you let go of needing approval, another petal unfurls. Every moment you allow yourself to simply be, not polishing, not shrinking, not waiting for permission, the current of abundance flows more freely. The soul remembers it was always enough. Safety, wealth, and love, these become less like distant spotlights and more like clear, warm air inside the body. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the formless part of you find its own shape, the way mist finds the ground, the way light bends to fill the room. Being seen, truly seen, asks nothing except your tenderness with yourself. Presence is not a product or a performance. It is the most original gift, arriving before achievement, lasting after applause. Your worth is not a currency traded on the market of external eyes. It is an atmosphere, a way of existing that welcomes abundance by making no show of deserving it at all. Soften again. Imagine each time you've hidden your dreams for fear of being too much, or too little, or simply not enough. A gentle wave of release washing over those old stories now. In the unlit corners where scarcity once whispered, a new permission uncurls. You do not have to perform to belong. You do not have to impress to receive. You do not have to hold your breath for acceptance. The time drifts here, safety grows in stillness. Wealth becomes spacious, not a spotlight but a sky. Presence is the formless field in which all these blessings hover, waiting kindly, needing nothing but your gentle being. Let this moment expand to hold all the places you once hustled for worth. This is the slow blooming. This is the soft arrival. Presence, pure and effortless, is already abundance. There is nothing to fix, prove, or overgive. There is only the inexhaustible quiet, the truest you that cannot be performed, only witnessed, just as you are, just as you breathe in now and now and now. Sometimes, the soul remembers a time when it was safer to shrink in gentle corners of memory. Maybe the act of stepping forward was met with withdrawal, or a hush fell after your truth spilled out. Maybe your gifts were pressed into the smallest space, kept behind curtains and under covers, as if shining too brightly would signal the world to withdraw its warmth. So the practice became an old ritual. Move quietly, want quietly, receive only what won't draw attention. Many who create, who long for their work to matter, carry a map drawn in disappearing ink, a map marked with places not to go, volumes not to speak, rewards not to take. Shadows drawn by those who once loved you, or once were frightened themselves, coloring outside their own boundaries and calling it protection. Desperation whispers differently. It wraps around ambition with stormy fingers, urging action out of scarcity, not sacredness. It steers with anxious urgency. If I am not seen, I'll be left behind. If I'm not celebrated, I don't belong. It compels with a trembling need for validation, for proof, for coin or applause just to settle the heart for one more night. A body braced for impact, a voice trying to outpace uncertainty, but desperation, for all its noise, cannot open the doors that devotion can. There is a way of showing up that has nothing to do with running from emptiness or chasing after someone else's gaze. There's a way to be visible that is not about hunger, but about homecoming. Each evening, somewhere, someone chooses to stand as themselves, not to be chosen, not to be bought, but because every cell aches to be inhabited and sincere. There's a breath the world releases when one person lets go of the script of unworthiness, the mask of apology. In that exhale, something ancient softens. Let there be a slow returning. What if the act of being seen could become an offering and not a plea? What if every word ever uttered in devotion to your own spirit was already a prayer spoken into the soft ear of the divine? What if every time you let yourself be visible, it was less a transaction and more a tapestry, that by just standing in your light you ripple beauty through the unseen realms? Most move through life layering protections between self and song, tentative, apologetic, cloaking the gold within with veils of modesty or deference, as if their authenticity could ever threaten those meant to love them. So often, the rhythm becomes a chase. Striving to be picked, hunting for signs, seeking out the gleam of approval that will finally make the effort feel safe. But that gleam is a mirage if earned through performance, or bought with silence, or bargained from the edges of yourself. Pause, invite the breath to slow. Remember the way beloveds in sacred stories showed up, unhidden, unveiled, not because they needed to impress or persuade, but because something holy inside them recognized the living presence all around. Their arrival was a devotion, not a declaration of lack. Invite this sacred echo into your own night. Notice how the heart softens when you consider. I do not stand here because I am lacking. I do not create because I need to be saved from my longing. I arrive, one steady breath after another, because I am already loved. With every inhale, let the body remember safety. In every exhale, let the old pattern dissolve. The shrinking, the negotiating, the waiting for someone else to give you permission to unfold. The world remembers what it is to see someone rooted in devotion. And to show up not as a hunger but as a hearth, not as a question but as a quiet revelation. There is a listening in the air tonight, almost as if heaven itself leans closer when a soul lets itself be witnessed with no mask, no performance, no bargain. The currency is not attention, the currency is presence. Let devotion color your visibility. Notice the spaces within that want to hide. Offer them gentle permission to soften. There is no performance required here, only the honest appearance of your truth, again and again, as an act of quiet reverence. The world hungers less for spectacle than for sincerity, less for the loudest, more for the utterly real. Let each moment you choose to be seen be less about outcome, more about presence. There's freedom in allowing the wealth of your being to breathe. When you trust that your gifts do not need an audience to be holy, a vastness opens. You become a living shrine to enoughness, a breathing testament to the sacred simplicity of being. Notice what softens in your chest when you imagine showing up not to fill a void, but to honor a vow made in spirit. A vow to let all that you are meet the world, in trust, in patience, in quiet certainty. Before, attention felt like a test. Now it feels like an embrace. Before, money felt like something you had to chase. Now it feels like an outcome that can simply meet you on your path, not because you are striving, but because you are staying. Before, visibility meant risk. Now, it means recognition, the gaze of the divine noticing how earnestly you tend your corner of existence. Let that truth echo through you. With every exhale, let the devotion deepen. With every silence, let your enoughness root a little further in the soil of trust. The doors that open to you will not be unlocked by desperation or demands. They open smoothly in response to devotion, the way a window lifts when the air outside is ripe with spring. There is no finish line here. There is only the gentle arrival, again and again, of who you truly are. Let this moment stretch wide. Let the breath between sentences be a cradle for your nervous system, a safe place for your hopes to rest, unjudged, untouched by past scripts. You are not late, you are not lost, you have not missed the moment. The act of standing as yourself in full visibility is the purest form of abundance, trusting that you are met, seen, and supported, not as a performer, not as a fixer, not as a seeker, but as a sovereign participant in this holy exchange of being and receiving. All that is required is your presence, steady, surrendered, sovereign. There is wealth in that, there is peace. Pause, breathe in, let it settle. The world remembers itself by watching those who are unhidden in devotion. Tonight, let yourself be one of them. There is a hush that settles sometimes, after the moment you most wanted falls away, after the yes fails to arrive, or the invitation never comes, or the door closes before you reach the threshold. The world feels a little more silent, and your own breath grows smaller, almost as if trying to avoid disturbing the ache. Most people turn inward here, curling around that bruise, feeding on the question, why not me? They replay the no as if maybe this time, listening closely, they'll understand what they did wrong in the stillness. After the closing, there is a temptation to shrink, to take up less space, as though your absence will explain the lack. Here in the world of creation, visibility is risk, a trembling exposure, a memory of past nightfalls where someone laughed or turned away, or simply never saw you at all. The body remembers. It tenses around new possibility, wary of another echo, another silent verdict. It is so easy, almost natural, to believe that rejection is a measure of worth. But what if the soul, quietly guiding, simply moved you past the shallow surface? Not because you are unworthy, but because your roots require deeper soil, not a rejection, but a redirection as rain slides off slopes and gathers in the valley, as seeds carried on the wind drift far from the hand that cast them, only to settle exactly where they alone could awaken into life. What if every withheld yes was a corridor, ushering you ever inward, ever truer, ever nearer to rightness? The mind argues, it makes lists and keeps score. It remembers the rooms where your laughter faded, the notes unanswered, the efforts met by silence. This is what so many do, cling to the echo, let the resonance of no become their heartbeat. They learn to dim, apologizing for wanting more, for standing in the light, for reaching out again. They shield their longing, believing visibility will invite more pain, that if you are unseen, you cannot be disappointed. But the river does not resent the bend. The waves do not mourn the shore they never reach. The sapling does not regret the dark, rich sleep before greening into day. With every exhale, what if you let go just a little of the story that says you should have bloomed where you first landed? Breathe here, let the tension travel down to your feet. Release it to the ground beneath and remember, being turned away is not being turned against. It is not punishment, nor a decree on your value. It is the soul's gentle detour, a subtle, sacred path that forks unseen, guiding you to richer ground. Each closed window is a current, sweeping you toward air you haven't tasted, sunlight you've never known. Let yourself imagine, softly, if the fields you were denied might have stifled your becoming, might have hemmed in growth, might have kept you from knowing the wildness of your own newness. Those who wander closed gardens sometimes forget there are meadows beyond the walls, and so very often, the seeds that slip from careless hands are the first to root, unseen, in silent promise. Imagine for a moment all the places your energy, your art, your devotion could not have landed had you been accepted too soon, or by those unable to water the fullness of your vision. Money often feels like a palace to which we're denied the keys. The wound of rejection tightens around desire, and the world whispers that safety means silence. And so, creators and dreamers hide their gifts, soften their voice, shrink their worth, as if by making themselves small enough, they might slip inside unnoticed. But this palace, this abundant home, is not found by shrinking to fit the doorway. Its gates open when you arrive as you are, holding the harvest of all that rooted in unseen places. Let breath move through you, slow and undemanding. Notice where your body tenses, where the sternum tightens, where the jaw holds a word unsaid. Soften those places, one by one. Release every lingering echo of when the world said no, or not yet, or not you. Each time rejection arises, meet it as a messenger, a keeper of right timing. The universe, after all, is fluent in rerouting. Rivers do not oppose the stone. They curve, circumnavigate, deepen, richer for the redirection. You too deepen every time you are led elsewhere. Think of the seeds, small, silent, swept from intended places by careless winds. Some perish, yes. But some, out beyond the orderly beds in the tender wild, enter the earth's hidden embrace. There undisturbed, not demanded, they gather nutrients from darkness and patience. They take root where no eye expects. When they rise, they are stronger, stranger, more utterly themselves than any sown by design. What if that is your story, quietly unfolding? Let the air expand in your chest. Imagine every cell remembering a place it once fit perfectly, and 100 more spaces it still allowed to inhabit. Every time you revisit the wound of being overlooked, let another breath remind you something truer was calling even then. Unseen hands were guiding, winds were shifting, graces were preparing softer land. In love, too, remember, being left behind or passed over is not a verdict. Souls find their gardens not by pushing, but by listening. The heart that did not see you was simply tuned to another bloom, just as you, one day, will be recognized in the field that knows your fragrance, that welcomes your return. Every rejection is not an argument against you, but a compass arrow for your spirit. Let your longing breathe open now, wider, slower. Allow for the possibility that rightness outpaces approval. That destiny isn't fragile. It cannot be stolen, withheld, or delayed by the moments that turn away. And if tonight there is still a tremor left, a worry that maybe you missed your chance, or that abundance lives just past your reach, pause, feel the ground again. Trust that your roots will find water, no matter where the winds have placed you. That what is yours cannot be detained by fences, nor your essence dulled by delay. Let the soul remember, what you call rejection is almost always redirection, rearrangement, restoration. Not loss, but becoming. Every night that seemed like the end was only a passage. Every silence is a space for new truth to grow. Breathe, and let the soil hold you in all your strangeness, in all your glory, in all your not yet arrived becoming. Even now you are arriving. There's a quiet ache underneath so much brilliance, the subtle urge to dim instead of dazzle, the hidden belief that perhaps if you soften your presence, you'll be safer. Many people have learned to wrap their gifts in layers, like silk scarves folded over a candle flame, disguising the glow, faintly hoping that hiding will be rewarded. If you've noticed yourself reducing your rates, speaking more softly when the conversation turns to money, or blowing out your own birthday candles before anyone else can see the wish in your eyes, you're not alone. Most of the world has been taught to discount their light, to camouflage their value, to trade radiance for reassurance. This way of shrinking is old and loving and scared. Each time you shrink, a memory inside you believes it's protecting you. Generations echo. Blending in was survival. Being overlooked was a safer bet than being chosen and misunderstood. Old patterns remember. Those who stood too tall in their magic, too visible in their wealth, too generous with their wildness, sometimes met envy, ridicule, or exile. You might still carry this whisper in your nervous system, a residual shiver, saying, if I'm too much, I might lose love, lose safety, lose belonging. Maybe this shadow travels alongside your aspirations, slightly behind every bold ask, every price you name, every truth you speak. It feels easier, so much easier, to hide behind doing more, charging less, or giving endlessly without letting yourself receive. Breathing in, feel the touch of this pattern in your body. Is there a tightening, a faint ache in your chest, your jaw, your stomach? Releasing slowly, allow a little more air, a little more space. You don't have to shrink to be safe. You never had to dilute your presence to fit someone's comfort. You never had to step out of the light to keep love from living. If you were born radiant, why would you mute it now? Every time you make yourself smaller, it's as if you're trying to tiptoe across your own stage, blending your gold into beige, hoping not to offend the shadows. But your value does not require a disguise. It never did. Let go just for tonight of hiding behind value camouflage. There is nothing safer about wrapping abundance in apology or shrinking the size of your gift. The world does not become kinder when you shrink. It merely becomes hungrier for what only you can offer. You don't have to shrink to be safe. Softly, again, you don't have to shrink to be safe. With each breath, that truth moves deeper. Perhaps the urge to undercharge, to overdeliver, was just a temporary shelter, a place you built when storms felt close. Imagine your generosity, your skill, your vision standing in the sunlight, unmasked, honest. What does it feel like to be witnessed, gently, entirely? Even if your knees shake, even if your voice trembles, the light within you was never meant to stay hidden. Sometimes, hiding behind value camouflage is like stuffing bright stars into a tiny jar, putting the lid on tight so nobody else is startled by brilliance. Sometimes, it's like dressing a diamond in dust or whispering your poetry alone in a locked room. Other times, it's folding your honesty into smaller and smaller boxes until it almost disappears. These disguises are soft, almost invisible, but their price is steep. Breathe out and release another thread of that old costume. There's no wealth to gain by masking your radiance. Money does not come more easily when you apologize for asking, or when you camouflage your worth under endless extras. Abundance finds you most easily when it can see you, when you stand in the clear, open, honest visibility of your gift. Every time you shrink for safety, you forget that the universe knows you by your frequency, not by your apology. Love recognizes light, not camouflage. You don't have to shrink to be safe. Each moment you pulse with your full, unapologetic self, the doors of receiving open just a little more. What if you could let the shine of your work, the warmth of your spirit, be as visible as a lantern at twilight, or a song in perfect silence, or a river gleaming with the last light of day? What if you trusted that the world is not safer when you're hidden, but wounds little by little when your medicine is missing? Let the old ache exhale. Let the urge to apologize lose its hold. Let the belief that camouflage equals protection dissolve as gently as mist. Tonight, rest in knowing you don't have to shrink to be safe. If your value was divinely chosen, no price, no strategy, no mask could ever really protect you or keep you small. As you drift, let every muscle unclench. Breathe into your presence. Receive this. It is safe to be seen, safe to be bold, safe to shine without apology. With every breath, wash away the myth that hiding brings security. Each heartbeat reclaims a fraction of your wholeness. You don't have to shrink to be safe. If fear still lingers, let it sit beside you as a memory, no longer a command. Let the story of discounting your light become a bedtime tale that no longer belongs to you. You are not the trait of shrinking. You are not the sum of your camouflaged gifts. You were not designed for secrecy, but for tenderness, visibility, and trust. In this new chapter, moments can expand, like water, like sunlight, like love, filling every corner no longer blocked by camouflage. Notice how money comes to those who are visible, loving, and open. Notice how safety draws near when you trust your fullness, not just your edits. In the layers of self that you used to tuck away, there is peace. In your easy breath, the world remembers how to receive you. You don't have to shrink to be safe. Tonight, let this be your lullaby. Presence is protection. Visibility is safety. Wealth meets you here in your radiance. Under every old pattern of hiding, an invitation to expand again and again and again. Somewhere inside the body, deeper than words, beneath the mind's stories, is a place that remembers what it means to be safe being seen. For a long time, the world invited you to make yourself lighter, quieter, softer around your edges, to drift into safe shadows when money, brilliance, or recognition found you. Maybe the nervous system learned to contract at being seen, the flush of warm skin, sometimes mistaken for warning, a gaze drawn away because it felt safer to stay hidden, protected, less visible to eyes that might misunderstand envy. Or take, so many spend years tending to safety by shrinking, by keeping gifts tucked just beneath the surface, by believing comfort means camouflage, by thinking being noticed comes at a cost, by hovering quietly at the boundary between enough and not too much. Each time light lands upon the soul, a soft but insistent story whispers. If I am visible, I might lose my belonging. If I grow, the room for me might get smaller. If I am generous, eyes will narrow, hands will reach. Something might be taken. This story pauses the breath. It cools the hands and toes, softens the jaw, turns the heartbeat inward so that it doesn't thunder. It gently dims the glow, that secret shimmer beneath the skin, that wants both to give and to receive. What if there is an older memory, a safer current, a warm light humming quietly that says, visibility is not a threat, it is the natural frequency of belonging. What if exposure isn't danger but resonance? You are simply coming home to the original safety of being witnessed, without needing to shrink or explain, apologize or shape-shift. Tonight, let the nervous system step slowly into this frequency, as if soaking in dappled golden light, neither harsh nor demanding, fingertips resting softly on the skin, recognizing warmth not as warning, but as invitation, a gaze. Quiet and gentle, meeting yours, not to judge, but simply to hold, no rush, the space between you offered as sanctuary. Every time the impulse to cover up, to step back, to dim rises something else, a softer arm enfolds you. The muscles do not have to brace. The breath can flow as if it is both shield and welcome. The air is yours. Notice how scarcity patterns once danced with the urge to disappear. Each time a hope surfaced, a voice said, keep it small, declare less. Tuck the joy away, but the soul always remembers that to be seen is to be met. Breathe out old reflexes, the old way that equated attention with cost. Sigh out the belief that abundance makes you a target. Exhale the script that says daylight is dangerous. Instead, let each breath imprint safety in the tiny rivers underneath the skin. Let each moment invite a slow basking in attention, gentle, never grasping. When new wealth enters, what if it's simply a visitor in the room, a guest, not a thief? The heart adjusts to this new climate. Warm, soft, golden. Receiving is the most natural thing. There is no need to shield, shrink, or camouflage. Even as memories of past contraction echo, they do not run the show here. You have met money as spotlight, as pressure, as performative mask. Here you meet money as warmth, a soft sunbeam across bare shoulders, asking nothing, taking nothing. Money and visibility arrive together, as kin, holding hands. Both want you simply as you are. Let the body release the idea that being witnessed means needing to perform. Here, visibility means breathing, existing, being quietly luminous with nothing to prove. Notice where old patterns still invite tightening. Does the jaw soften now? Does the chest feel held? Can the spine lengthen, unconcerned with hiding? If being visible could feel like stretching out in a sunlit field, skin warmed, breath easy, gaze unhurried, if being seen could feel like home, what opens? If attention is the gentle hand resting over yours, not gripping, not pulling, just present, how does the nervous system shift? Tonight, in the space between listening and dreaming, let the new story take root. Visibility is not the threat. Hiding has not kept the world safe. The old ways belong to other times, other rooms. Now, this is your homecoming. Invite the nervous system to gently untangle. The warmth on the skin belongs here. The steady gaze welcoming, not weighing. Breathe and allow. What if being witnessed is a blessing never again to be bargained for or dimmed? What if your worth is not increased or decreased by the number of eyes that meet you, but simply affirmed in every sacred glance? Let the breath move slowly. Each inhale, a calling back of all the places you've made yourself small. Each exhale, a gentle release of every old script.